The stagecoach rattled toward Independence, California, carrying 3 passengers who had no idea that the Mercer gang had been watching the route for days, waiting for the perfect moment to strike and settle a blood debt that had festered for 2 long years. Lily Shepherd pressed her gloved hand against the worn leather seat as the coach bounced over another rut in the mountain road. The year was 1878, and she had traveled all the way from San Francisco to claim the small property her late aunt had left her in Independence. At 22 years old, she had never ventured this far into the wild country, and every mile that separated her from civilization made her stomach tighten with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. The other 2 passengers, an elderly merchant and his wife, had dozed off an hour ago, their heads bobbing with each jolt of the wheels. Through the small window, Lily could see the Sierra Nevada mountains rising like ancient sentinels, their peaks still dusted with snow even in late spring. Pine forests stretched endlessly in every direction, broken only by the narrow dirt road carved through the wilderness. She had heard stories about bandits in these parts, about men who would kill for a few dollars and leave bodies to rot in forgotten ravines. The thought made her shiver despite the warmth of the afternoon sun. What Lily did not know was that the Mercer brothers, Cole and Dutch, had sworn revenge against the very stagecoach company that employed the driver currently handling the reins above her head. 2 years earlier, the driver, a man named Walter Graves, had testified against their younger brother in a robbery trial. That testimony had sent Bobby Mercer to prison, where he died 6 months later in a knife fight. The surviving brothers blamed Graves for everything that followed, and now they wanted his blood. High in the mountains, miles from the nearest settlement, Ryan Redford stood beside a cold stream, washing the grime from his hands. At 28 years old, he had spent the last 5 years living alone in these mountains, trapping beaver and hunting elk, selling his furs twice a year in Independence for supplies. His body had been hardened by the brutal work of surviving in the wilderness. Thick muscles corded his arms and shoulders, built from chopping wood, hauling carcasses, and wrestling traps into icy water. His dark hair fell past his collar, wild and untamed like the country that had shaped him. A thick beard covered his jaw, though he kept it trimmed enough to eat without hassle. Ryan had come to the mountains to escape the memories of war. He had fought for the Union, seen things that still woke him in the night with his heart pounding and sweat soaking his blankets. The silence of the wilderness had gradually eased those wounds, though they never fully healed. He preferred the company of animals to people now, found more honesty in the way a wolf looked at you than in most men's words. As he dried his hands on his buckskin pants, Ryan heard something that made him freeze. Voices carried on the wind, rough and excited, coming from the direction of the main road about a mile east. He had learned to read the sounds of these mountains like other men read newspapers. Those voices meant trouble. He could hear horses moving through brush, the deliberate stealth of men who did not want to be heard. His instincts, sharpened by years of warfare and survival, told him something bad was about to happen. Ryan moved quickly to his cabin, a sturdy structure he had built himself from pine logs chinked with mud and moss. Inside, he grabbed his rifle, a Winchester repeater he had purchased with an entire season's worth of fur money. He checked the ammunition, slid extra cartridges into his pocket, and headed toward the sound of those voices. He told himself he was just being cautious, just checking to make sure no one was planning to rob his trap lines or raid his cabin while he was away. But deep down, he knew that was a lie. Something in those voices had sounded predatory, and Ryan had never been able to walk away from a fight when innocent people might be in danger. The coach rumbled along the narrow mountain pass, wheels crunching over loose stones. Walter Graves whistled an old cavalry tune as he handled the reins, the 4 horses pulling steady and strong. He had driven this route for 3 years without serious incident, though he always carried a shotgun under the seat and a pistol on his hip. The company warned all their drivers about bandits, but Walter figured his luck would hold. He was wrong. Cole Mercer stepped out from behind a boulder, rifle aimed directly at the lead horses. Dutch emerged from the other side of the road, his pistol drawn and cocked. Both men wore bandanas over their faces, their hats pulled low, but Walter recognized them instantly. He had seen them in the courtroom during Bobby's trial, had watched their eyes burn with hatred as the verdict was read. His hand moved toward the shotgun, but Cole fired a warning shot that splintered the wood beside the driver's seat. "Do not even think about it, Graves," Cole shouted, his voice rough with tobacco and rage. "You are going to pay for what you done to Bobby." Inside the coach, Lily jerked upright at the sound of the gunshot. The elderly merchant's wife screamed, and her husband put a protective arm around her shoulders. Lily's heart hammered against her ribs as the coach lurched to a stop. She could hear angry voices outside, muffled by the wooden walls, and she knew with terrible certainty that they were being robbed. "Everyone out!" Dutch called, moving to the coach door and yanking it open. "Now, or I start shooting through the walls." Lily climbed out first, her legs trembling so badly she nearly fell. The merchant and his wife followed, clinging to each other. The mountain air suddenly felt cold despite the sunshine, and Lily wrapped her arms around herself as she faced the two armed men. She could see Walter above, his face pale and tight with fear. "This is not about you folks," Cole said, keeping his rifle trained on Walter. "This is between us and the driver. You just sit tight and nobody else needs to get hurt." "Please," the merchant's wife sobbed. "We have money. Take whatever you want." "Shut up," Dutch snapped. He looked up at Walter. "Get down here, Graves. Time to face what you done." Ryan moved through the forest like a ghost, his years in the mountains having taught him how to step without snapping twigs or rustling leaves. He could see the stagecoach now, stopped in the middle of the road with 4 people standing beside it under the guns of 2 bandits. His jaw tightened when he saw the woman, young and clearly terrified, her auburn hair gleaming in the dappled sunlight. The 2 men holding everyone hostage were focused entirely on the driver, who was climbing down from his seat with his hands raised. Ryan found a position behind a fallen log about 30 yards from the scene, close enough to make accurate shots, but far enough to have some cover. He settled the Winchester against his shoulder and took a slow breath, trying to decide on his next move. He could kill both bandits before they knew what hit them, but that felt too much like murder, even if they deserved it. These men were threatening innocent people, but they had not actually hurt anyone yet. "You remember Bobby Mercer?" Cole asked Walter as the driver reached the ground. "You remember sending him to prison to die?" "I told the truth at that trial," Walter said, his voice shaking. "Bobby robbed that store. I saw him do it. What happened after was not my fault." "He was our brother," Dutch said, his pistol wavering with emotion. "He was 20 years old, and he died in that hellhole because of you." Lily watched the confrontation unfold with growing horror. She could see the murder in these men's eyes, could feel the violence building in the air like the pressure before a thunderstorm. The merchant's wife continued to sob quietly, and her husband tried to shush her, clearly afraid of drawing attention. Lily's mind raced, trying to think of something to say or do that might diffuse the situation, but she came up empty. She had lived a sheltered life in San Francisco, working as a seamstress, reading novels, dreaming of adventure. This was not the kind of adventure she had imagined. "Bobby made his choices," Walter said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I'm sorry he died, truly I am. But killing me will not bring him back. It will just make you murderers twice over." "We are already murderers," Cole said flatly. "Killed the man who shanked Bobby in prison, tracked him down after he got released. So one more death is not going to make much difference to our souls." Ryan's finger tightened on the trigger. These men were going to kill the driver, that much was clear. He had maybe seconds to act before they pulled their triggers. He shifted his aim to Cole, who seemed to be the leader, and made his decision. War had taught him that sometimes violence was the only answer to violence, that hesitation got good people killed. He did not want to take another life, but he would not stand by and watch murder happen when he could stop it. The crack of Ryan's rifle shattered the tense silence. Cole's rifle flew from his hands as the bullet struck it dead center, the impact sending him staggering backward. Before Dutch could react, Ryan worked the lever action and fired again, this shot kicking up dirt inches from Dutch's feet. Both bandits froze, their eyes wide as they searched the tree line for the source of the shots. "Drop your weapons," Ryan called out, his deep voice carrying across the clearing. "Do it now, or the next shots will not miss." Dutch's hand tightened on his pistol, and Ryan could see him calculating the odds. "Do not," Ryan warned. "I have got a Winchester repeater with 13 more shots, and I can put every one of them through your skull before you even figure out where I am. Drop the gun." Cole looked at his brother and gave a slight nod. Dutch's pistol hit the dirt, and Cole raised his hands. "This is not your fight, whoever you are," Cole shouted toward the trees. "This is between us and Graves. I am making it my fight," Ryan said. He rose from behind the log and moved forward, the rifle never wavering from the two bandits. As he emerged from the shadows, Lily got her first look at him, and her breath caught despite the terror of the moment. He was huge, easily over 6 feet tall, with shoulders that seemed broad enough to block out the sun. His buckskin clothes were worn but clean, and the rifle in his hands looked like a natural extension of his body. There was something primal about him, something that belonged to these wild mountains in a way that reminded Lily of the wolves and bears she had read about in books. "Walter, get their guns," Ryan said as he approached. The driver hurried to collect the dropped weapons, his hands shaking with relief. Ryan kept his eyes on the Mercer brothers, reading their body language for any sign they might try something stupid. "You folks in the coach all right?" he asked without looking away from the bandits. "Yes, thank you," the merchant said, his voice trembling. "Thank you so much." Ryan finally allowed himself a quick glance at the other passengers. His eyes met Lily's, and something passed between them in that instant, something neither of them could name, but both felt deep in their chests. Her eyes were green, he noticed, the color of new pine needles in spring. Despite her obvious fear, she held his gaze without looking away, and Ryan felt something shift inside him, like a door opening in a room that had been locked for years. "What are you going to do with us?" Dutch asked, breaking the moment. "That is a good question," Ryan said. He looked at Walter. "You know these men." "Cole and Dutch Mercer," Walter said. "Their brother Bobby got sent to prison a couple years back for robbery. I was a witness at the trial. Bobby died in prison, and I guess they blame me for it." "So you were planning murder," Ryan said to the brothers. "That is a hanging offense." "Our brother is dead because of him," Cole said, his voice breaking with grief and rage. "You expect us to just let that go?" "I expect you to understand that killing more people will not fix what is broken," Ryan said. His voice was hard, but not without sympathy. "I have seen enough killing to last 10 lifetimes. It never makes anything better. It just creates more graves." Lily found herself surprised by the mountain man's words. She had expected him to be harsh and brutal, the kind of man who solved problems with violence and nothing else. But there was something thoughtful in his eyes, something that spoke of pain and hard-won wisdom. She wondered what he had seen to make him sound so tired when talking about death. "We cannot just let them go," Walter said. "They will come after me again." "No, we will not," Dutch said quickly. "We will leave. Head to Montana or Oregon. Start over somewhere else. Just do not turn us in. Please. We cannot go to prison." Ryan studied the two men carefully. He could see the genuine fear in their eyes, but also the grief that had driven them to this point. They were not hardened criminals, just desperate men who had made terrible choices. "How old was your brother when he died?" he asked. 20, Cole said quietly. "He was just a kid who made a stupid mistake." "And killing the driver would have made that better?" Ryan asked. "Would have honored your brother's memory?" Cole looked at the ground, unable to answer. Dutch wiped at his eyes with the back of his hand. The rage that had sustained them seemed to drain away, leaving only exhaustion and sorrow. "Here is what is going to happen," Ryan said. "You are going to get on your horses and ride north. You're going to keep riding until you are out of California. If I ever hear that you came back, if I ever hear that you bothered Walter or anyone else on this route, I will hunt you down myself, and I promise you, I am a much better tracker than any lawman you will ever meet. Do you understand?" The brothers nodded. "What about our guns?" Cole asked. "You can collect new guns once you are out of the territory," Ryan said. "Consider it the price of your lives." He gestured with the rifle toward the horses tied in the brush. "Now go." The Mercer brothers mounted up and rode north without another word, disappearing into the forest within minutes. Walter watched them go with visible relief, then turned to Ryan. "I do not know how to thank you, mister. You saved my life." "Just doing what needed doing," Ryan said. He lowered the rifle, the tension finally draining from his shoulders. "You should report this to the law when you get to Independence. Let them know the Mercer brothers are wanted for attempted murder." "I will," Walter promised. He looked at his passengers. "We should get moving. We have lost enough time, and I want to be in town before dark." The merchant and his wife quickly climbed back into the coach, eager to put distance between themselves and the scene of the attack. Lily moved toward the door, but paused, turning back to look at Ryan. "Thank you," she said softly. "You risked your life for strangers." "Could not do anything else," Ryan said. Up close, he could see the intelligence in her eyes, the strength beneath the fear. She was beautiful, but it was more than that. There was something about her that drew him in, made him want to know her story. "You heading to Independence?" "Yes," Lily said. "I inherited some property there from my aunt. I'm going to try to make a life for myself." "Independence is a good town," Ryan said. "Rough around the edges, but the people are mostly decent." He hesitated, unsure why he felt compelled to keep talking to her. "If you need anything once you get settled, my name is Ryan Redford. Most folks in town know how to find me when I come down from the mountains." "Lily Shepherd," she said, and smiled despite everything that had just happened. "Thank you again, Mr. Redford." "Just Ryan," he said. "Mr. Redford makes me sound like my father, and that is not a comparison I enjoy." "Miss Shepherd, we need to go," Walter called from the driver's seat. "Sun is getting low." Lily gave Ryan one last look, something unspoken passing between them again, then climbed into the coach. Ryan stepped back as Walter snapped the reins and the horses lurched forward. He stood in the road and watched the stagecoach disappear around a bend, Lily's face visible in the window until the last moment, looking back at him. For the first time in 5 years, Ryan Redford felt something other than numbness. His heart was beating faster than it had any right to, and his mind kept replaying the moment their eyes had met. He told himself he was being foolish, that a woman like her would have no interest in a mountain hermit who smelled like wood smoke and pine sap. But the feeling persisted as he gathered the bandits' discarded weapons and started the long walk back to his cabin. Lily sat in the coach and tried to focus on the passing scenery, but her thoughts kept returning to the mountain man who had saved them. Ryan Redford. The name suited him, strong and straightforward. She could still see him in her mind, the way he had moved with such confidence and power, the gentleness in his eyes when he spoke about death and killing. There had been pain there, old wounds that had never fully healed. She wondered what had driven him into the mountains, what he was hiding from or trying to forget. The merchant's wife was chattering nervously about the attack, reliving every terrifying moment in exhaustive detail. Her husband made soothing noises, though he looked like he wanted nothing more than a stiff drink and a bed. Lily tuned them out, her mind still in that clearing, still locked on those intense brown eyes that had looked at her with something she could not quite name but desperately wanted to understand. Independence appeared as the sun touched the western peaks, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. The town consisted of a single main street lined with wooden buildings, their false fronts giving them an air of importance they did not quite deserve. Lily could see a general store, a saloon, a hotel, a church, and various other establishments that served the miners and ranchers who worked the surrounding country. Mountains loomed on all sides, making the town feel small and isolated, a fragile human settlement carved out of wilderness that could reclaim it at any moment. The stagecoach pulled up in front of the hotel, and the passengers disembarked with relief. Lily stood on the wooden sidewalk and looked around, trying to orient herself. This was going to be her home now, this rough frontier town so different from the city she had left behind. Part of her wondered if she had made a terrible mistake, but another part felt a thrill of excitement at the possibilities. This was a place where she could reinvent herself, where no one knew her history or had expectations about who she should be. "Miss Shepherd?" A man approached from the hotel, middle-aged with a kind face and a lawyer's suit that had seen better days. "I'm Harold Thompson. I handled your aunt's estate. I've been expecting you." Lily shook his hand. "Thank you for your letters, Mr. Thompson. They were very helpful during my journey." "Your aunt's property is just outside town, about a mile east," Harold explained. "It is not much, just a small cabin and 10 acres of land, but the location is beautiful. She loved that place. I think you will too." They arranged to visit the property the next morning, and Harold helped Lily secure a room at the hotel. As she climbed the stairs to her room, exhaustion finally caught up with her. The attack on the stagecoach, the fear, the strange meeting with Ryan Redford, all of it crashed over her at once. She barely managed to undress before collapsing onto the bed and falling into a deep, dreamless sleep. Ryan reached his cabin as darkness fell, his mind still churning with thoughts of the day. He lit a lantern and set about preparing a simple meal of venison and beans, but his heart was not in it. He kept seeing Lily's face, kept remembering the way she had looked at him with gratitude and something more, something that made his pulse quicken. He ate mechanically, then sat by the fire and tried to read, but the words swam meaninglessly on the page. Finally he gave up and went to bed, lying awake in the darkness and listening to the night sounds of the forest. An owl called somewhere nearby, and coyotes sang their eerie chorus in the distance. Usually these sounds comforted him, reminded him that he was part of something larger than his own troubles. Tonight, they just made him feel alone. Ryan woke before dawn as always and went about his morning routine, checking his trap lines and hunting for fresh meat. But his thoughts kept drifting back to Independence, to the woman with green eyes who had come into his life so unexpectedly. He told himself to forget about her, that she was probably already settling into her new life and had forgotten all about the strange mountain man who had helped her. But by mid-morning, he found himself cleaning up, trimming his beard and changing into his best shirt, the one he saved for his trips to town. The ride to Independence took 2 hours on his gray gelding, a tough mountain horse he had named Storm for the color of its coat. Ryan told himself he needed supplies anyway, that he would have been making this trip regardless. It was a lie, but a comforting one. Lily spent her first full day in Independence getting acquainted with her new property. Harold Thompson had been right about the location. The cabin sat in a meadow surrounded by pines, with a clear stream running through one corner of the land. The Sierra Nevada peaks rose majestically to the east, their snow-capped summits gleaming in the morning light. The cabin itself was small but solidly built, with a stone fireplace, a sleeping loft, and windows that caught the morning sun. "Your Aunt Martha lived here for 20 years, Harold explained as they walked the property. She came west after her husband died, wanted to start fresh somewhere beautiful. She made a good life for herself, took in sewing work from the town, kept a garden. Everyone loved her. Lily felt tears prick her eyes. She had only met her aunt twice, years ago when she was a child, but the letters they had exchanged over the years had created a deep bond. Martha had understood Lily's restlessness, her desire for something more than the conventional life expected of her. This gift of land and freedom was the ultimate expression of that understanding. "She wanted you to have this," Harold continued, handing Lily a sealed letter. "She wrote it just before she passed, asked me to give it to you when you arrived." Lily tucked the letter into her pocket, too emotional to read it in front of the lawyer. They spent another hour going over the details of the property transfer, and then Harold left her alone to explore her new home. Lily walked through the empty cabin, imagining how she would arrange furniture, where she would put her sewing table, how she would make this place truly hers. She was outside examining the garden plot when she heard a horse approaching. Lily turned, shading her eyes against the sun, and felt her heart skip when she recognized the rider. Ryan Redford sat tall in the saddle, his broad shoulders and long hair unmistakable even from a distance. He raised a hand in greeting as he rode into the meadow. "Did not expect to see you out here," Ryan said as he dismounted. He tried to sound casual, but his heart was racing. She looked even more beautiful than he remembered, her auburn hair loose around her shoulders, her dress simple but flattering. "Mr. Thompson was showing me my property," Lily said, feeling suddenly self-conscious. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, aware that she probably looked disheveled. "This was my aunt's place." "Martha Shepherd was your aunt?" Ryan's face softened. "I knew her. She was a good woman, helped me out when I first came to these mountains, taught me which plants were safe to eat and which would kill you. I was sorry to hear she passed." "You knew her?" Lily felt a warm glow at this unexpected connection. "She never mentioned you in her letters." "Probably because I am not much to write about," Ryan said with a slight smile. "Just another mountain man trying to stay out of trouble." He gestured toward the cabin. "This is a good piece of land. Stream never runs dry, soil is decent for growing, and you have got timber for firewood." She chose well. "Would you like some water?" Lily asked, suddenly desperate to keep him from leaving. "I do not have much to offer, but the stream is cold and fresh." Ryan knew he should refuse, should make some excuse and ride back to his cabin before he made a fool of himself. Instead, he nodded. "That would be nice, thank you." They sat on the porch steps, passing a tin cup back and forth, and talked. Ryan found himself telling her things he had not spoken about in years, about the war, about losing his family to fever, about the peace he had found in the mountains. Lily listened with genuine interest, asking questions that showed she really heard what he was saying. In turn, Lily told him about San Francisco, about the suffocating expectations of society life, about her work as a seamstress and her dreams of independence. "Everyone thought I was crazy for coming out here alone," she admitted. "A proper lady does not leave civilization to live in the wilderness, but I could not breathe there anymore. I needed space to figure out who I am when no one is watching." "That is why I came to the mountains," Ryan said. "After the war, I could not fit back into regular society. Everyone wanted me to be the man I was before, but that person died somewhere in Virginia. I needed to find out who I was going to be next." "And did you?" Lily asked. "Figure it out, I mean?" Ryan looked at her and something in his chest tightened. "I thought I had. Now I'm not so sure." The moment stretched between them, charged with unspoken possibilities. Ryan wanted to reach out and touch her hand, wanted to close the distance between them, but he held back. She was educated, refined, from a world completely different from his. What could he possibly offer her except a rough life in the wilderness? "I should go," Ryan said, standing abruptly. "I have traps to check, and it's a long ride back." Lily felt a flash of disappointment, but hid it behind a polite smile. "Of course. Thank you for stopping by." Ryan mounted Storm and looked down at her, his expression troubled. "Be careful out here, Miss Shepherd. You are pretty isolated. If you need anything, if there is any trouble, you can fire 3 shots in the air. Sound carries in these mountains. I will hear it and come running." "Thank you," Lily said. "That is very kind." Ryan rode away without looking back, afraid that if he did, he would not be able to leave. Lily watched until he disappeared into the trees, then sank back down on the porch steps with a sigh. She pulled out her aunt's letter and broke the seal with trembling fingers. "My dearest Lily." The letter began in Martha's elegant handwriting. "If you are reading this, then I have passed on, and you have come to claim your inheritance. I hope this land brings you the freedom and peace it brought me. But more than that, I hope it brings you love. I spent 20 years in this beautiful place, and my only regret is that I lived them alone. Do not make my mistake, dear girl. If you find someone who makes your heart beat faster, someone who sees the real you beneath all the layers society demands, do not let them slip away out of fear or pride. Life is too short, and the wilderness too vast to waste time pretending we do not need each other. Be brave, my darling niece. Be braver than I was. With all my love, Aunt Martha." Lily read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down her face. It was as if Martha had known exactly what she needed to hear, had reached across the boundary of death to offer advice. She folded the letter carefully and pressed it against her heart, making a silent promise to her aunt's memory. Over the next week, Lily threw herself into making the cabin livable. She purchased furniture from the general store in Independence, arranged her few possessions, and started planning a garden. The physical work was exhausting, but satisfying in a way her seamstress work had never been. Every nail she hammered, every board she scrubbed, felt like she was building something real and lasting. The townsfolk were friendly but curious about the young woman living alone on the Shepherd property. Several of the local ladies called on her, ostensibly to welcome her, but really to assess whether she was respectable. Lily charmed them with her manners and her genuine interest in learning about the area. She made it clear she planned to resume her aunt's sewing business, taking in alterations and making clothes for those who could afford custom work. But despite the busyness of her days, Lily found her thoughts constantly drifting to Ryan Redford. She watched the tree line, hoping to see him ride out of the forest. She listened for hoofbeats, jumped at every sound that might be a visitor. He did not come, and as the days turned into a week, Lily began to think she had imagined the connection between them. Ryan was having similar struggles. He threw himself into his work with almost desperate intensity, running his trap lines twice as often as necessary, hunting even when his meat supply was more than adequate. But nothing could distract him from thoughts of Lily. He found himself riding toward Independence more than once, only to turn back before he reached town, convinced that she would not want to see him, that he was fooling himself about her interest. On the 8th day after their meeting, Ryan was checking a trap near the main road when he heard the sound of hoofbeats approaching fast. He stepped out from the trees and saw Walter Graves driving his stagecoach at a reckless speed, the horses lathered with sweat. Walter pulled up hard when he saw Ryan. "The Mercer brothers," Walter gasped. "They are back. Someone saw them riding toward the Shepherd place. I think they are going after Miss Shepherd to get revenge on me for letting you run them off." Ryan felt ice flood his veins. He did not waste time with questions, just swung up onto Storm and kicked the horse into a gallop. The big gelding responded instantly, stretching into a full run that ate up the miles. Ryan leaned low over the horse's neck, his mind racing faster than the hooves pounding beneath him. If those men hurt Lily because of his decision to let them go, he would never forgive himself. Lily was inside the cabin, hemming a dress for one of the town ladies, when she heard horses outside. She set down her needle and went to the window, assuming it was another neighborly visit. Her blood turned cold when she saw two men dismounting, both wearing bandanas over their faces. She recognized them instantly from the stagecoach attack, would never forget those hard eyes. Cole Mercer kicked open the cabin door before Lily could even think about barring it. "Remember us, Miss Shepherd?" he asked, his voice cold. "We met on the road last week." "What do you want?" Lily asked, trying to keep her voice steady. She looked around for a weapon, anything she could use to defend herself. But there was nothing within reach. "We want that mountain man who interfered in our business," Dutch said, following his brother inside. "And we figure the best way to draw him out is to take something he cares about." "He does not care about me," Lily said quickly. "We barely know each other. He helped some strangers on the road, that is all." "That is not what we heard," Cole said. "Word around town is that Ryan Redford has been acting strange, riding toward independence and then turning back like he cannot make up his mind about something. Only reason a man acts like that is a woman." "You're making a mistake," Lily said, but her voice shook. She was terrified, but also angry. These men had already disrupted her life once, and now they were back to do worse. "Ryan will not come for me. And even if he did, what then? You kill him. That will not bring your brother back." "No," Dutch said quietly, "but it will make us feel better." Outside, Ryan arrived at a full gallop, taking in the scene instantly. Two horses he did not recognize tied near the cabin, the door standing open, voices inside. He dismounted while Storm was still moving, hitting the ground at a run. The Winchester was in his hands before his boots hit the porch, and he came through the door with the rifle raised. "Step away from her," Ryan said, his voice deadly calm. Cole and Dutch spun around, and Ryan could see the surprise in their eyes. They had expected to have time to set up an ambush, to use Lily as bait. They had not expected him to arrive so fast. "You made good time," Cole said, recovering quickly. He drew his pistol and pressed it against Lily's head. She froze, her eyes wide with terror. "But now that you are here, we can have that conversation we have been wanting." Ryan's finger tightened on the trigger, but he forced himself to breathe, to think. One wrong move, and Lily would die. "Let her go," he said. "Your problem is with me, not her." "Our problem is with everyone who took Bobby from us," Dutch said. He had his own gun drawn now, pointed at Ryan. "You should have let us kill Graves. You should have minded your own business. Now you're going to pay for that mistake." "So shoot me," Ryan said, "but let her go first. She has nothing to do with this." "She has everything to do with it," Cole said. "She is the reason you care what happens here. Take her away and you are just another mountain man we do not give a damn about." Ryan met Lily's eyes across the room. He could see the fear there, but also trust. She believed he would save her. That faith terrified him more than the guns pointed in his direction. He had already failed so many people in his life, lost so many that mattered. He could not fail her. "Bobby would not want this," Ryan said, changing tactics. "He made a mistake, got caught, paid the price. But he was young. He probably still had good in him. You think he would want you to become murderers and rapists, to terrorize innocent women in his name? That the legacy you want for him?" "Do not talk about Bobby like you knew him," Cole shouted, but Ryan could hear the doubt creeping into his voice. "I did not know him," Ryan admitted, "but I know what it is like to lose someone you love. My whole family died of fever while I was off fighting a war. I came home to empty graves and a house full of ghosts. For a long time, I wanted to blame someone, to hurt someone, to make the world pay for taking them from me. But you know what I learned? Revenge does not fill the hole. It just makes it bigger." Lily watched Ryan as he spoke, seeing the raw pain in his face. He was not just trying to talk the bandits down. He was speaking from his soul, sharing his deepest wounds in an effort to save her. Something in her heart shifted, settled into place. This man, this beautiful, broken man, was willing to die for her. And she realized with sudden clarity that she was falling in love with him. "We cannot just walk away," Dutch said, but his gun hand was wavering. "If we do, Bobby died for nothing." "Bobby died because life is hard and unfair, and sometimes good people get caught up in bad situations," Ryan said. "You can honor his memory by being better men than the ones who killed him in prison, or you can become just like them and make his death meaningless." Cole's hand shook where he held the pistol against Lily's head. She could feel his indecision, the war raging inside him. Then, slowly, he lowered the gun. "Go," he said to Lily. "Get out of here." Lily didn't need to be told twice. She moved quickly to Ryan's side, and he shifted to keep the rifle trained on the brothers while pulling her behind him with his free hand. The warmth of his body against her back made her feel safe, despite the danger still crackling in the air. "You are better men than you think," Ryan said to the Mercers. "Leave California, start over somewhere else, find a way to live that would make your brother proud." Cole and Dutch stood in the middle of the cabin, looking lost and defeated. Finally, Cole nodded. "We will go. But if we ever cross paths again, Mountain Man, I cannot promise we will be so understanding." "Fair enough," Ryan said. He backed toward the door, keeping Lily behind him, never taking his eyes off the bandits. Once outside, he moved quickly to Storm, boosting Lily up into the saddle before swinging up behind her. He kicked the horse into motion, riding hard away from the cabin. They did not stop until they reached a clearing a mile away, well hidden from the road. Ryan dismounted and helped Lily down, his hands gentle despite the adrenaline still coursing through his system. "Are you all right?" he asked, his eyes searching her face for injuries. "Did they hurt you?" "I'm fine," Lily said, but her voice broke on the last word. The terror she had been holding at bay crashed over her, and she found herself sobbing, her whole body shaking with reaction. Ryan pulled her against his chest without thinking, wrapping his powerful arms around her and holding her while she cried. "You are safe," he murmured against her hair. "I have got you. You are safe now." Lily clung to him, her fingers digging into his shirt, drawing strength from his solidity. He smelled like pine and leather and wood smoke, wild and clean. Gradually, her sobs subsided, but she did not pull away. Neither did Ryan. They stood there in the forest, holding each other as the sun filtered through the pine branches above them. Thank you," Lily finally whispered. "You saved me again." "I should have killed them the first time," Ryan said, his voice rough with self-recrimination. "I let them go, and they came after you because of it. This is my fault." Lily pulled back enough to look up at him. "No," she said firmly. "You gave them a chance to be better. They made the choice to come back. That is on them, not you." Ryan looked down at her, struck once again by her strength and compassion. Most women would be hysterical, would blame him for not finishing the job when he had the chance. But Lily understood the complexity of the situation, understood the weight of the decision he had made. "You are remarkable," he said softly. "I am terrified," Lily corrected with a shaky laugh, "but I'm also angry. Those men disrupted my life twice now. I'm not going to let them do it a third time." "They will not," Ryan promised. "I'm going to make sure of it." "How?" Lily asked. Ryan was quiet for a long moment, his jaw working as he thought. "I'm going to stay close to your place for a while. Make camp in the woods nearby. Keep watch until I am sure they have really left the territory." "You do not have to do that," Lily said, though her heart leaped at the thought of him being near. "You have your own life, your trap lines." "Nothing matters more than making sure you are safe," Ryan said. The words came out with more intensity than he intended, revealing feelings he had been trying to keep hidden. "I could not—" He stopped, swallowed hard. "If something happened to you because of my choices, I could not live with that." Lily reached up and touched his bearded cheek, her hand small and soft against his weathered skin. "Ryan," she said gently, "look at me." He met her eyes, and what he saw there made his breath catch. There was no pity, no fear, Just warmth and something deeper, something that looked like the beginning of love. I want you to stay close, Lily said, not because I need protection, though that is certainly appreciated, but because I want to see you. I want to know you better. These past days without you have felt empty in a way that has nothing to do with bandits or danger. Ryan's heart hammered against his ribs. Lily, I'm not the kind of man you should be interested in. I live alone in the mountains. I have nothing to offer you except a rough life and uncertain prospects. You deserve someone educated, refined, someone who can give you the kind of life you are used to. I left that life behind, Lily said. I came here looking for something real, something true, and I found it in you. She took a deep breath, gathering her courage. My aunt wrote me a letter before she died. She told me that if I found someone who made my heart beat faster, someone who saw the real me, I should not let them slip away out of fear or pride. You make my heart beat faster, Ryan Redford, and I think I make yours beat faster too. Ryan could not deny it. Every defense he had built crumbled under the honest vulnerability in her eyes. You do, he admitted. Since the moment I saw you on that road, you have been in my head and my heart. But Lily, I am broken in ways you do not understand. The war took pieces of me that I will never get back. I wake up some nights not knowing where I am, thinking I am back in the fighting. I am not whole. None of us are whole, Lily said. We are all broken in different ways. But maybe that is the point. Maybe we are supposed to fit our broken pieces together and make something new. Ryan searched her face, looking for any sign of doubt or uncertainty. He found none. This woman, this brave, beautiful woman, was offering him something he had thought forever lost. A chance at connection, at love, at a life that meant more than just surviving. He could turn away, protect himself from the possibility of future pain, or he could take the risk, step off the cliff and trust that she would be there to catch him. He chose trust. Ryan cupped her face in his large hands, his calloused thumbs gently stroking her cheeks. If we do this, he said, his voice rough with emotion, if we take this chance, I need you to know that I am all in. I do not do anything halfway. If you let me into your heart, I am going to protect it with everything I have. I am going to love you with everything I am, and I am going to spend every day trying to be worthy of you. You already are, Lily whispered. Then she rose on her toes and kissed him. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, both of them learning the shape and taste of each other. Then Ryan made a sound low in his throat and pulled her closer, deepening the kiss. Lily melted against him, her arms wrapping around his neck, fingers tangling in his long hair. The kiss spoke of longing and promise, of wounds beginning to heal and hearts daring to hope again. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Ryan rested his forehead against hers. I am going to court you properly, he said. Do this right, Lily laughed, the sound full of joy. We are standing in a forest. You are a mountain man, and we just survived a hostage situation. I think we are past worrying about proper. Even so, Ryan said, smiling for what felt like the first time in years. You deserve romance and respect. I am going to give you both. They rode back to Lily's cabin together, Ryan in the saddle with Lily seated in front of him, his arms secure around her waist. The Mercer brothers were gone, their horses no longer tied outside. Ryan checked the cabin thoroughly anyway, making sure nothing had been disturbed or damaged. Satisfied it was safe, he helped Lily put the door back on its hinges where Cole had kicked it in. I'm going to set up camp in that grove of pines about 100 yards east, Ryan said. Close enough to hear if you call out, far enough to give you privacy. I will stay there until we are sure those men are really gone. You could stay in the cabin, Lily suggested, then blushed. I mean, there is the loft. It would be more comfortable than sleeping on the ground. Ryan was tempted, but he shook his head. Folks in town already gossip enough. I do not want to do anything that might damage your reputation. Once we are courting officially, once everyone knows my intentions are honorable, then we can worry less about appearances. Lily wanted to argue that she did not care what people thought, but she appreciated his concern for her standing in the community. She would need the goodwill of her neighbors to make a success of her new life. Then come for dinner tomorrow night, she said. I will cook something, and we can talk properly. I would like that, Ryan said. He kissed her once more, a gentle press of lips that promised more to come, then headed out to set up his camp. Over the next 3 weeks, Ryan and Lily fell into a pattern. He spent his days checking his trap lines and hunting, but every evening he appeared at her cabin for dinner. Lily proved to be a decent cook, and Ryan provided fresh meat and wild vegetables he gathered from the forest. They talked for hours, sharing their histories, their dreams, their fears. Ryan told her about the war, about the friends he had lost, about the guilt he carried for surviving when so many had not. Lily listened without judgment, understanding that he needed to speak these things aloud to begin truly healing. She told him about her parents' death from typhoid when she was 16, about the relatives who had taken her in but never really wanted her, about the loneliness of living in a city full of people but having no real connections. "We are both orphans," Lily said one evening as they sat on her porch watching the sun set behind the mountains, "both searching for a place to belong." "I found mine," Ryan said, taking her hand, "right here, with you." The physical attraction between them grew stronger with each passing day. Ryan would touch her hand or brush a strand of hair from her face, and Lily felt fire race through her veins. When he kissed her goodnight, she had to force herself not to pull him inside and abandon all thoughts of propriety. But Ryan was true to his word about courting her properly, never pushing for more than she was ready to give. News reached them through Walter Graves that the Mercer brothers had been spotted in Oregon, apparently having given up their vendetta. Ryan still kept watch for another week just to be certain, then finally felt confident enough to return to his cabin in the high country. But he came down to visit Lily every few days, unable to stay away for long. The townspeople took notice. The local ladies watched with interest as the notorious hermit mountain man courted the new seamstress. Some gossiped that it was scandalous, but most found it romantic. Ryan Redford had always been well-liked despite his reclusiveness, and Lily had quickly won hearts with her kindness and skill with a needle. The general consensus was that they were well-matched, two lonely souls finding each other in the wilderness. Summer turned to autumn, painting the mountains in shades of gold and red. Ryan and Lily's relationship deepened, moving beyond the initial rush of attraction to something more solid and lasting. They had their first argument when Lily wanted to visit Ryan's cabin, and he refused, worried about the rough trail. She accused him of being overprotective. He accused her of being reckless. They did not speak for 2 days, both miserable, before Ryan appeared at her door with wildflowers and an apology. "I am not used to caring about someone," he admitted. "It makes me stupid and afraid." "I'm not fragile," Lily said. "I came all the way from San Francisco alone. I survived a bandit attack. I can handle a mountain trail." "I know," Ryan said. "I'm sorry. I will take you to my cabin next week, show you the high country. I promise." They made the journey on a crisp October morning, Lily riding Storm while Ryan walked alongside, pointing out landmarks and animal tracks. His cabin was smaller and more primitive than Lily's, but immaculately maintained. She could see the pride he took in his home, the care he had put into building it with his own hands. "It is not much," Ryan said, suddenly self-conscious, "but it has kept me alive for 5 years." "It is wonderful," Lily said honestly. She walked around the single room, taking in the furs on the walls, the tools hanging neatly, the books stacked beside the bed. "You have made a real home here." "A lonely one," Ryan said. He came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "But it does not have to stay that way." Lily turned in his arms, her heart racing. "What are you saying?" Ryan took a deep breath. He had been planning this moment for weeks, but now that it was here, his tongue felt thick in his mouth. "Marry me," he said simply. "I know we have only known each other a few months. I know you probably want more time. But Lily, I love you. I love you more than I thought I could ever love anything. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to build a life with you, have children with you, grow old with you. If you need more time, I will wait. I will wait as long as you need. But I needed you to know how I feel." Lily felt tears stream down her face, but she was smiling so wide her cheeks hurt. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I will marry you. I do not need more time. I know what I want, and it is you. It has always been you, from that first moment on the road when you stepped out of the forest like something from a dream." Ryan kissed her with all the pent-up longing of the past months, and Lily responded with equal passion. They stumbled toward the bed, hands exploring, hearts racing. But before things could go too far, Ryan pulled back, breathing hard. "Not until we are married," he said, his voice rough with desire and determination. "I want to do this right. I want our wedding night to be perfect." Lily groaned with frustration, but she loved him even more for his restraint. "How long does it take to plan a wedding in Independence?" she asked. "Let us find out," Ryan said with a grin. They were married 3 weeks later in the small church in Independence. Lily wore a dress she had sewn herself, simple white muslin with lace at the collar and cuffs. Ryan wore new trousers and a shirt he had purchased specially, though he refused to cut his hair or shave his beard beyond a trim. "You fell in love with a mountain man," he told Lily. "I am not going to pretend to be something else." The whole town turned out for the ceremony. Walter Graves stood as Ryan's best man, and the lawyer Harold Thompson gave Lily away since she had no family present. When the preacher pronounced them husband and wife, Ryan kissed Lily so thoroughly that several of the older ladies fanned themselves and the children giggled. They spent their wedding night at Lily's cabin, which they had decided would be their primary home since it was larger and closer to town. Ryan carried Lily over the threshold, both of them laughing with joy and anticipation. That night, they finally consummated their love, and it was everything they had dreamed it would be. Ryan was gentle but passionate, taking his time to learn what brought Lily pleasure. Lily surprised them both with her own passion, her years of repression falling away as she explored the magnificent body of her new husband. Afterward, they lay tangled together in the dark, skin against skin, hearts beating in rhythm. "I never thought I could be this happy," Ryan whispered against her hair. "After the war, I thought that part of me was dead. But you brought me back to life." "We brought each other back," Lily corrected. "We saved each other." Their first year of marriage was not without challenges. Ryan struggled with his nightmares, sometimes waking in the night shouting and confused. Lily learned to speak to him softly, to bring him back to the present with gentle touches and reassuring words. She struggled with the isolation of frontier life, sometimes missing the culture and society of San Francisco. Ryan learned to take her to town more often, to understand that she needed connection with other women, needed to be part of a community. But the love between them only grew stronger with each challenge they faced. Ryan taught Lily to hunt and trap, to read the weather and navigate by the stars. Lily taught Ryan to read beyond the simple level he had achieved, sharing her love of books and poetry. They found joy in the simple rhythms of frontier life, wood chopping and sewing, in preserving food for winter and telling stories by the fire. The following spring, Lily discovered she was pregnant. Ryan was overwhelmed with joy and terror in equal measure, terrified something would happen to her during childbirth. He became even more protective, hovering constantly until Lily had to gently but firmly establish boundaries. "Women have been having babies since the beginning of time," she reminded him. "I am strong, and I have the midwife in town. I will be fine." Their son was born on a cold December morning in 1879, perfect and healthy with his father's dark hair and his mother's green eyes. They named him Matthew, after Ryan's father. Ryan held his son with hands that could skin an elk or break a man's jaw and wept openly at the miracle of this tiny life they had created together. Motherhood transformed Lily in ways she had not expected. She had always been strong, but now she found reserves of patience and tenderness she had not known she possessed. Watching Ryan with their son melted her heart. This hard mountain man who had survived war and wilderness became soft and playful with Matthew, singing lullabies in his rough voice and making silly faces to earn baby giggles. 2 years later, their daughter arrived, a fierce little thing they named Emma after Lily's mother. She had auburn hair like Lily and her father's stubborn determination. Ryan doted on both his children, but there was something special about his relationship with Emma. She was fearless from the start, and Ryan recognized that quality because he saw it in her mother. As the years passed, Ryan and Lily built a life that was richer than either had dared dream. They added onto the cabin, creating more space for their growing family. Ryan still trapped and hunted, but he also began guiding hunting parties into the high country, using his knowledge of the mountains to earn extra money. Lily's sewing business thrived, and she took on an apprentice, a young woman from town who needed a trade. They weathered hard times together. A brutal winter that killed half their livestock, a forest fire that came within a mile of their home before rain finally put it out, illness that struck both children at once and had Lily and Ryan taking turns staying awake for 3 days straight to nurse them through fevers. Each challenge was met together, their partnership growing stronger with every trial. On their 10th wedding anniversary, they stood on their porch watching Matthew and Emma play in the meadow. The children were chasing each other, their laughter ringing clear in the mountain air. Ryan pulled Lily against his side, his arm heavy and warm around her shoulders. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked. "Giving up city life for this?" Lily looked up at him, at the face she knew better than her own, at the eyes that still made her heart race after a decade of marriage. "Never," she said firmly. "Not for a single moment. This life, this family, everything we have built together, this is what I was always meant to find. You are what I was always meant to find." "I love you," Ryan said, the words as powerful now as they had been the first time he spoke them. "I will love you until the day I die, and if there is anything beyond that, I will love you there too." "I know," Lily said, reaching up to touch his bearded cheek. "I have always known. From that first day on the road, when you stepped out of the forest and saved me, I knew you were mine, and I was yours." They watched the sunset behind the mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink and deep purple. Matthew called out that he had found a frog by the stream, and Emma demanded to see it immediately. Ryan and Lily walked hand in hand across the meadow to admire their son's discovery, their children's excited voices blending with the sound of wind in the pines and water running over stones. In the years that followed, their family continued to grow. Another son arrived, then one more daughter, filling the cabin with noise and love and endless activity. Ryan built additions until the small cabin had become a proper house, rooms branching off in all directions. Lily's hair gained threads of silver, and Ryan's beard turned gray, but their love remained as strong as ever. They became pillars of the Independence community. Ryan served as a guide and tracker, helping lost travelers and teaching younger men the skills they needed to survive in the mountains. Lily's sewing business evolved into a successful dress shop that employed 3 women. They raised their children to be strong and kind, to respect the wilderness that sustained them, to value education and hard work. Matthew grew into a fine young man who shared his father's love of the mountains and became a renowned wilderness guide. Emma surprised everyone by becoming a teacher, establishing the first real school in Independence. Their younger children followed their own paths, each finding their place in the growing community. On their 25th wedding anniversary, Ryan and Lily traveled back to the spot where they had first met, where he had stepped out of the forest and saved the stagecoach. The road was better maintained now, wider and smoother, but the mountains were unchanged, eternal and beautiful. "Do you remember how terrified I was?" Lily asked, looking at the place where the coach had stood. "I remember how brave you were," Ryan corrected. "How you held your fear but did not let it control you. I fell in love with you in that moment, though I did not know it yet." "I knew," Lily said with a smile. "I knew the moment you looked at me. I saw the man you were beneath all the rough edges and isolation. I saw your heart, and I wanted it." "You have it," Ryan said, pulling her close. "You have always had it. You always will." They stood together in the clearing, 2 souls who had found each other against all odds, who had built a life from nothing but love and determination. The bandits who had sought revenge were long gone, their anger burned out and forgotten. The danger that had brought Ryan and Lily together had transformed into something beautiful and lasting. As they rode back toward home, toward the house full of children and grandchildren waiting for them, Lily thought about her Aunt Martha's letter. She had been brave. She had not let Ryan slip away out of fear or pride. And because of that bravery, because of their willingness to take a chance on love, they had created something magnificent. Ryan looked over at his wife, at the woman who had saved him just as surely as he had saved her, and felt gratitude flood through him. The war had taken so much from him, had left him broken and lost. But it had also led him to these mountains, to the life he now lived, to this woman who had made him whole again. That night, surrounded by their children and grandchildren, Ryan and Lily celebrated their anniversary. Stories were told, laughter filled the rooms, and love wrapped around them like a warm blanket. As the evening grew late and the younger children fell asleep in various corners, Ryan and Lily slipped out onto the porch for a moment of quiet. The mountains rose dark against the star-filled sky, the same mountains that had witnessed their first meeting, their courtship, their entire life together. Ryan took Lily's hand and raised it to his lips, kissing her knuckles with the same reverence he had shown on their wedding day. "Thank you," he said softly, "for taking a chance on a broken mountain man, for seeing past what I was to what I could become, for giving me a family and a reason to live, for loving me." "Thank you," Lily replied, tears shining in her eyes, "for riding to the rescue of a frightened woman on a stagecoach, for being brave enough to love again after everything you lost, for building this beautiful life with me, for loving me back." They stood together in the darkness, two people who had survived bandits and bullets, loneliness and loss, fear and hardship. They had fought for their love, protected it, nurtured it through everything the wild frontier could throw at them. And they had won. Inside the house, a baby started crying, and Emma's voice rose to comfort it. Matthew was telling his younger siblings a story about tracking a mountain lion, his voice animated and full of pride. The sound of their family, the life they had created, was the sweetest music Ryan and Lily had ever heard. "Ready to go back in?" Ryan asked after a while. "Always," Lily said. "As long as you are with me, I am ready for anything." They walked back into the warm, noisy house hand in hand, their love story complete, but their life together far from over. The mountains watched over them as they had for 25 years, silent sentinels guarding the happiness that bloomed in the valley below. And in the darkness, if anyone had been listening, they might have heard the wind whisper a promise through the pines that love, real love, the kind built on courage and trust and commitment, could survive anything the world threw at it. Ryan and Lily Redford were living proof of that truth, and they would continue to be for all the years to come, a testament to the power of two broken souls choosing to heal together and create something beautiful from the shattered pieces of their pasts. Their story, which had begun with violence and fear on a dusty mountain road, had transformed into something far greater, a legacy of love that would echo through generations, inspiring their children and grandchildren to be brave enough to take chances on love, to fight for what mattered, to build lives of purpose and meaning in the wild, beautiful frontier they called home. And so the mountain man and the seamstress lived out their days in the Sierra Nevada mountains, surrounded by the family they had created, the community they had helped build, and the wilderness they both loved. They grew old together, their bodies wearing down but their spirits remaining strong, their love never wavering even as the world around them changed and modernized. When Ryan finally passed away at the age of 73, it was peacefully in his sleep with Lily's hand in his, just as he had always hoped. Lily followed him just 2 years later, unable to bear the loneliness of a world without her mountain man. They were buried side by side in the small cemetery overlooking Independence, their graves marked with simple stones that bore their names and the dates of their extraordinary lives. But their story did not end with their deaths. It lived on in their children and grandchildren, in the businesses they had built, in the community they had strengthened. People still told the tale of the bandits who wanted revenge and the mountain man who saved a woman on a stagecoach, though the details became embroidered and romanticized over time. The truth was more beautiful than any legend, two lonely people who had found each other in the wilderness and chosen to build something lasting, something real, something that would outlive them both. And on quiet nights, when the wind whispers through the pines around the old Redford property, some folks swear they can still hear laughter echoing from the meadow, the sound of children playing and parents calling them home for supper. The cabin itself, expanded and modified over the years but still standing strong, remained in the family for generations, a testament to the love that had built it and the lives that had filled it with joy. Ryan and Lily's story was one of rescue and protection, but more than that, it was a story of two people brave enough to be vulnerable, strong enough to build something from nothing, and wise enough to cherish every moment they were given together. In the end, that was what mattered most, not the dangers they had faced or the obstacles they had overcome, but the love they had chosen and the life they had built, one day at a time, in the wild, beautiful, unforgiving, and ultimately rewarding landscape of the American frontier. The mountains stood eternal, as they always had and always would, keeping watch over the valley where a mountain man and a seamstress had once dared to believe in love again. And that love, forged in danger and tempered by hardship, proved stronger than any threat the wilderness could offer, lasting not just for a lifetime, but for all the lifetimes that would follow, generation after generation, carrying forward the legacy of Ryan and Lily Redford, whose story began with a rescue and ended with a love that could never truly die.